decision, but we will see on Tuesday. We will see on Tuesday. There is a mountain of motions that need to be addressed. And Mr. Brian Steele, and as you see here on the screen, Mr. Brian Steele has dropped his. I know you're looking down at the bottom and you see 259 pages. And you're like, Jason, I don't have enough iced coffee for this. There's not enough Red Bull. I can't get a Red Bull IV this late at night to sit up and listen to you read 259 pages of emotion from Brian Steele. Now, again, Brian Steele he's a pretty good writer, and I really enjoy listening to him write. Have no fear. What we're going to be reading tonight is about 13 pages. And a lot of it is these big, giant blocks of text. But Brian Steele did something I thought was super fun. He added a lot of YouTube links. So actually, this whole 259 pages is not that. It's a lot of examples. He adds a ton of examples to his argumentation. So it's not just Brian Steele saying something. Brian Steele says it, and Brian Steele gives you some evidence to go along with it. So let us roll. We're going to get through this. We're going to read through the first 13 pages of the quashing of the extrajudicial speech, the gag order. And we're going to just read through that. And then we're going to watch, I think, the perfect example of why this gag order should be granted. Wait. This gag order should be quashed, because wait till you hear what Fani Willis had to say when they first arrested Young Slime Life YSL defendants. So let's go. In the Superior Court of Fulton County, Georgia, and we got the state of Georgia versus Jeffrey Williams. I'm laughing because this title is so long. Mr. Williams' response to the state's motion to restrict extrajudicial statements filed on July 23rd, motion to adopt motion for a fair and constitutional trial on behalf of Mr. Stilwell, as well as DeMonte Kendrick's motion for mistrial, both filed on or about July 23rd, 2024, and notice of non-joinder of Mr. Nichols' motion for mistrial and objection to mid-trial substitution of the trial judge filed on or about July 23rd, 2024. Wow. All of these motions are going to be linked in the chat, already in the chat. Thank you so much to the moderators for doing that. And it's also in the description of this video. So you can definitely pull this up and follow along, or if you're a deep reader and you're really enjoying this type of stuff, you can check it all out. I'm trying my best to make sure all of these are available to you all for your own review. Comes now Mr. Jeffrey Williams, by and through undersigned counsel, and hereby files this response to state's motion to restrict extrajudicial statements filed on July 23rd. I'm just going to stop there because that's all we're going to read today. We're not going to go through all of these. Again, he adds, Brian Steele is not holding back anything here. I mean, there's a lot of extras that he's added to this. So I'm not going to belabor that point. You are definitely welcome to go through it all, but I'm just going to jump down to the point that we're going to go over. And then we're going to go over this link that he gave us, because I think is really good. And it shows what we probably already know, that this is probably this should get thrown out. Response to the state's motion to restrict extrajudicial statements. And we know that extrajudicial statements, as we heard with Mr. Weinstein, and is what we already know from the original motion, is just conversation, talking to blogs, podcasters, the news, newspapers, and such like that, speaking at press conferences about a case that's currently being adjudicated. On or about July 23rd, the state filed a motion to restrict extrajudicial statements. Mr. Williams' counsel statements referenced in the state's motions do not violate the plain language or spirit of any ethical rule. In contrast, the state failed to alert this honorable court that before and during jury selection, when the potential jurors were not fully charged, to avoid all media reports concerning the indictment, the following occurred. Fox News, this is a press conference. We're going to actually go back and watch this one because it's really interesting. It's not super duper long, so we can get a lot. We can get through it. But this is Fani Willis, and we'll just say that. We'll jump back. And this is what she says. In reference to District Attorney Fani Willis claiming her priority is to prosecute gangs. And there's a reason for that. They are committing conservatively 75 to 80% of all the violent crimes we are seeing in our community. Let me stop for a second. What Brian Steele here is saying is that before the jury was selected, so while the jury could have been at that press conference. The jury probably saw it on 11 Alive News or Fox 5 News here in Atlanta. They're sitting there in their couches, sitting there eating their dinner with their family, and they see the district attorney making a case in a press conference and says something like, they are speaking about YSL and street gangs. They're committing conservatively 75 to 80% of all the violent crime that we are seeing in our community. And so they have to be rooted out of our community. I said just a week or two ago, it does not matter what your notoriety is, what your fame is. If you come to Fulton County, Georgia, and you commit crimes, and certainly if those crimes are in the furtherance of a street gang, then you are going to become a target and a focus of this district attorney's office, and we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. We are proud to bring forth this indictment and hopefully to bring justice to a lot. She is speaking about YSL. Now, mind you, they have not been convicted. They were just arrested. So the jury's still out. Everybody's still trying to understand and determine where they land in this, and they hear this from the district attorney. Boy, talk about prejudicing a jury. But let's continue. To a lot of the community who are victimized through this course, you'll see in this indictment. But more importantly, the most important thing we are here to do is to keep this community safe, and we believe removing these 28 defendants will keep Fulton County safer. Wow. So again, whether they've done it or not, I'm not 100% certain. I don't know that. What I do know, however, as I've said before, is that they've not done a good job of proving that these men have done these crimes that they're being accused of. And then for you to sit there and say that Fulton County is going to be safer because these 28 men are off the playing field, that's pretty bold. Look at the reporter says, these are some serious, significant charges. I would imagine you're going to seek some pretty serious sentencing here. I know it's early, but can you talk a little bit about the sentencing that they might be facing? Granted, they just arrested them. So nothing has been tried. They don't have a jury or anything. So she's already forecasting how what kind of, is she going to throw the book at them? What kind of charges they're going to face? Here it goes. District Attorney Willis. Well, we'll ask on a different charges for the maximum penalty. And there's obviously many people that are looking at life under this indictment. You're absolutely right. These are some serious times. There's serious allegations, and is, in my opinion, that violence in our community deserves maximum penalties. Wow. So she's already telling the jurors are hearing that she wants the maximum. Mind you, they haven't even been convicted yet. So she's really she's going pretty big here. She's going big or she's going home. And that's pretty wild. I think she's going to end up going home. And so I think you all see the problem here when she's saying that Judge Doug Weinstein or Brian Steele or other people can't go on the news or can't talk to a magazine or can't talk on a podcast. Remember me? Come on, holla at your boy. They can't do that, but she can do this. And I think that's the hypocrisy that they're talking about. Another reporter says, how big is this gang? Is that a good portion of the gang here operating in Atlanta? And how long were they investigating them? District Attorney says, if you look at the indictment, the crimes that they allege within it go all the way back to 2012 to 2022. I wouldn't say that it contains every active crime that YSL committed. It's a significant gang that operates here in Atlanta, Georgia. Not every member became a defendant within this indictment, but certainly a significant amount did, and certainly some of its leadership, which is the most important. District Attorney Willis notes that the investigation and indictment has been a long effort of the district attorney's office and reports on her conversation with Mr. Thomas' mother, a deceased in this case, citing her hopes to obtain justice. I do want to point out that you notice that this was started back in 2012. Again, that was under Paul Howard. So they've been investigating since the previous DA, and she came in her second year, hardly her second year, and brought this indictment. So that means all the work that a lot of the work is fair to say came from Paul Howard. So a question I ask is, why did Paul Howard see this as a viable case as Fani Willis does? I don't know. Inquiry minds want to know. Below is a link to an episode 3 of a podcast, King Slime, the prosecution of Young Thug and YSL. This one is actually really good. The problem is there are a lot of jump arounds. There's a lot of jump arounds. I would highly encourage you to check out this. It was interesting. So again, it's Fani Willis being interviewed on this King Slime, the prosecution of Young Thug and YSL, released on August 2023. So that's literally just a year ago. So just something, it wasn't like it was 5 years ago. It was literally last year, hardly last year, during voir dire, and prior to jury selection. So this happened before the jury was seated. Let's go. This podcast has since stopped recording episodes, but has hosted, I'm sorry, but was hosted by music journalist Christina Lee and the honorable reporter George Chidey. District Attorney Willis made it clear that she cannot provide specifics in the case. However, shares the following. He gives lots of examples. I mean, there's a lot of them. It was a lot to jump around for. At 17, I'll just give you some of the snippets. District Attorney says, I remember when we first took office, we're screaming from the top of the top hills that there's a gang problem, and people were really actually kind of treating us like we were crazy, right? There's a gang problem in LA, there's a gang problem in Chicago, but they did not want to admit that there was a gang problem right here in Atlanta. But we kept talking about the facts. I knew to be true because I knew crime waves. I knew that one important person got killed, and we got a gang war for several years. Okay. So again, she's talking about YSL. She's talking about how when she came into office, they already had a gang problem. But I'm just wondering, did Paul Howard see it exactly like she did? Because Paul Howard didn't prosecute this this case. I'm just wondering why. Next one. Attorney Willis claims at her initial press conference referenced above, District Attorney Willis, I think the stats that we're depending on are actually low. What we are talking about when we tell those numbers are self-identifying people that have already gone into the penal system, and they're identified actually as gangs, or we're finding their mail or their home, or I'm sorry, or their phone. So we're not hitting a lot of people. And one thing that is unique about this group is really doesn't count if you're not in the gang, if you don't claim it, right? So you'll find that even in the police interviews, when they'll tell you what set they're from, they're proud to declare it, or they have a tattoo on that says it is that says it, or through emojis or through direct language on social media. So we're just talking about those that we know. So again, the jury had not been seated. She's saying a lot of stuff about this trial and this case. And dare I say, I think she's kind of reckless, man. And it continues in C. I hope that you know, for gang members, I'm hated and feared because I am not going to apologize for bringing gang warrants or educating the police on how to bring gang warrants and how to prosecute people that decide to go into that life. Keeping it going. It is interesting we talk about snitching because everybody hard, right? Till they sitting in that seat. I already said, a very, very long time. I personally have tried, over 100 homicides, prosecuted hundreds of them because of pleas and other resolutions of cases. Literally, all I did for a very, very long time. When people get to sitting in that seat, more often than not, they snitching because the choice of is life, or you can tell someone else did and what their involvement was. And so that's real. I'm sorry. So that's real cool to say on social media. But when it's you sitting in there and your mama and your woman, you got a baby on the way, and you got all these other responsibilities as a man you need to tend to, You got to make grown folks decisions for for you and your family. And so often the decision is, I'm going to tell the truth and wrap this up for me. All right. I'm gonna finish it up, but we'll go back and actually listen to Fani Willis's interview because the presser is really informative. It really gives you a insight into what Fani Willis is thinking, not just DA Love, not just DA Hilton, not just Glanville or anybody else, but what Fani Willis was thinking about this case. Let's keep going. Lawyer Love's motion to restrict extrajudicial statements must be rejected. It is rich, audacious, and hypocritical that the state seeks to critique as unethical the single statement by Mr. Williams' counsel, which contains accurate, factual assertions as an overarching principle. Rule of professional responsibility 3.6 makes clear that just like the farmers in the United States, framers of the United States Constitution envisioned almost 250 years ago, when they mandated that those accused of crimes are guaranteed the rights to a public and speedy trial. That right there should be enough because, good gracious, this trial has not been speedy at all. Dare we even say, maybe because of ex parte, it hasn't even been public. But I digress. Let's keep going. There are vital social interests served by the free dissemination of information about the events having legal consequences and about legal proceedings themselves. The public has a right to know about the threats to its safety and measures aimed at assuring its security. It also has a legitimate interest in the conduct of judicial proceedings, particularly in matters of general public concern. Furthermore, the subject matter of legal proceedings is often of direct significance in debate and deliberation over questions of public policy. All right, let us finish this up. We're going to round these bases. Moreover, comments 5A and 5B delineate certain subjects about which a lawyer could speak, which are more likely to have a material prejudicial effect on the proceedings of, and those subject areas are more likely than not to have a no material prejudicial effect on the proceedings in a criminal case. Comments which are more likely to have material prejudicial effect on proceedings include the character, credibility, reputation, or criminal record of a party suspect in a criminal investigation or witness, or identity of a witness, or the expected testimony of a party or witness, the possibility of a plea of guilty to an offense, or the existence of contents of any confession, admission, or statement given by a defendant or suspect, or that person's refusal or failure to make a statement. What is more relevant is the issue at hand, is the commentary relating to those subjects areas more likely than not to have no material prejudicial effect on the proceeding. These subject areas include information pertaining to public record, the scheduling results of any step of litigation, every factual allegation in the statement made by Mr. Williams' counsel is contained in the public record. Specifically, Mr. Williams has repeatedly and publicly in public filings, as well as by and through his counsel in open court, maintained his innocence. Mr. Williams filed motions for speedy trial. The recused judge, Lawyer Love and Lawyer Hilton, have been accused of and found to have run afoul of their duties under the law. And Judge Glanville has been recused and disqualified from this role of trial judge based upon the motion brought by Mr. Williams. As this honorable court is aware, Mr. Williams' trial is televised live from the gavel to gavel. The coverage is available to the public. I just laugh because he gives the YouTube link. Like, dude, he is hilarious. The coverage is available to the public at the click of a link, even when not watched live, as recordings are maintained on YouTube. Thus, the likelihood that Mr. Williams' counsel's repetition of information in this public and or findings of the court could materially prejudice the adjudicative proceedings of the matter is absurd. Moreover, the jurors in this case have been provided a cautionary instructions and countless times, at least daily over the last 100 plus days of the trial, not to listen to anything related to the case. I do want to stop for a second. Remember Fani Willis, when we watch this clip in a moment, remember Fani Willis was doing the speaking before the jury was seated. So she's saying things like, we're gonna they're a scourge on society. They're committing 85% of the crimes in our communities, and we're gonna punish them to the full extent of the law, so on and so forth. So this is not a small deal at all. So when Brian Steele says, hey man, my client is innocent, my client maintains his innocence. My client wants to recuse Judge Glanville. Judge Glanville's been recused. Those are statements of fact. At the current moment, Fani Willis is not, and still not, has not actually proven that Jeffrey Williams has done these crimes that he's being accused of. Now, did he do it? I don't know. But let's keep going. So unlike pretrial comments, which the state is guilty of making, there's no basis for Mr. Williams' counsel to believe that the statements will have any substantial likelihood of material or prejudicial adjudicative proceedings. And right, and then that is actually the end of it. Yes, okay, that was the end of it. So we are not going to go into Stilwell's arguments and Kendrick's argument. I mean, that was the end of the gag order. Brian Steele's slap down on the gag order. So we're going to run back up here and we're going to jump here. Ooh. We're going to start at 8 and it just goes to the end. No, I'm sorry. This is the podcast. Please forgive me. All right, we jump here and start at 11 and go all the way to 23. It's not very long. So let's jump out of here. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with me on today. Hopefully you're having this is good and informative, especially if this case goes left like I think it might. There's a high probability that we'll be trying to play catch up real quick. So let me jump this back just a little bit. Bring these good people in. Let's go. All right. And there's nothing going on, but could y'all let me know just in the chat? Let me know one if you can hear. Just drop a one real quick. If you can hear, there's like a little bit of, let me move it to get some sound.
We're ready. First of
Perfect. Thank
all,
you.
I want to say good afternoon to you all. Thank you all for coming out. Want to acknowledge the DA and Fulton County Sheriff. We're here today to speak on the arrest of Jeffrey Williams that in collaboration with Fulton County DA's office and the Fulton County Sheriff on yesterday. This collaboration is representative of the partnership of the Atlanta Police Department and the DA's office on our aggressiveness and going after gang members. The mayor, as well as the DA, gave a interview on last week expressing their concerns about what we.
Hold on real quick, because I don't trust anybody that doesn't wear a beard. So y'all gotta pray for me. I don't trust them, but I do trust Miss Mandy React. Shout out to it. Thank you so much for the very kind super chat. Now she has a question. I'm gonna pose this to all of you all. If you've been watching this or you're familiar with it, you've been maybe just following along with me or others. There have been tons of other YouTubers, fantastic LawTube YouTubers who've been discussing this. So the question that Miss Mandy posed, and I think is a great question for all of us: do you think this trial will eventually be dismissed? I want you to think about that and we'll talk about it when we get done. So just something to think about. Thank you, Mandy. Very nice. Great question. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you. Let's go.
We were seeing in our city and how we would go after any offender. And at the direction of the DA taking the lead on us yesterday, making sure that we were able to get one of our top offenders off of the street. In partnership with them, utilizing our tactical teams, we were able to go out to the individual's location and arrest him without any significant consequences to him or any other parties at the house. And so with that, I'll turn it over to the DA.
Thank you, Chief Bryant. Today, I'm joined by the Atlanta Police Chief, Chief Rodney Bryant, as well as my sheriff and our sheriff, Sheriff Patrick Labatt. We are here today about a grand jury indictment that was returned that included not just Jeffrey Williams, which is of some notoriety and media attention, but about 28 defendants that operated within our community between the time period of 2012 and 2022. It is our allegation that they operated as a criminal street gang and commenced to do havoc in our community. That havoc includes crimes of violence, crimes of thefts, crimes involving drugs. I've made no secret about it, nor any apology that as the district attorney of Fulton County, my number one focus is targeting gangs. And there's a reason for that. They are committing conservatively 75 to 80% of all of the violent crime that we are seeing within our community. And so they have to be rooted out of our community. I said just a week or two ago, it does not matter what your notoriety is, what your fame is. If you come to Fulton County, Georgia, and you commit crimes, and certainly if those crimes are in furtherance of a street gang, that you are going to become a target and a focus of this district attorney's office, and we are going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. I agree with Chief Bryant. What you see yesterday and what you will see in the upcoming months and years is the result of a lot of hard work by both the Atlanta Police Department and this office. We are proud to bring forth this indictment and hopefully to bring justice to a lot of the community who was victimized through the course you see in this indictment. But more importantly, the most important thing that we are here to do is to keep this community safe. And we believe removing these 28 defendants will keep Fulton County safer. Yes, sir.
The indictment's got Young Thug and a bunch of other rappers. There was one name I was actually expecting to see there that I didn't, and that's Jeff Harlow. Can you speak to that?
What I'll tell you is that as large as this indictment is, I told my team that let's not be sexy, now let's not overreach. Let's be conservative in our approach, which is always the approach that I take. And in taking that approach, 28 defendants were indicted, and they were indicted for the crimes that I believe were appropriate for this RICO indictment. And so I won't speak to any person that is not named.
Okay, you might not have heard that. The reporter asked, hey, I'm looking over the names here and I see somebody's name that's not on here. And why is that person not on here? Now, I'm going to encourage you right now, stick around. We're not going to talk about it today, but we are going to talk about that person because there's a reason why I think, I'm not going to even say who the person is because I'm doing some little research. There's a reason why I think that person's name was not brought up in the 28 member indictment. Now, she made it sound really, really classy. Tip my hat to you, Fani Willis, but I think there's a reason why one of those persons that this reporter was looking for in this indictment was not there. But let's go.
These are serious, significant charges. I would imagine you're going to see some pretty serious sentencing here. I know it's early, but can you talk a little bit about the type of sentences they might be facing?
We'll ask on the different charges for the maximum penalties, and there's obviously many people that are looking at life under this indictment. You're absolutely right. These are serious times. They're serious allegations, and it is my opinion that violence in our community deserves maximum penalties.
In a recent interview, you said in the coming weeks and months to expect indictments, RICO charges, gang charges. We see that with here, but this is only focused on the YSL gang. At that time, you used plural indictments. Should we expect more indictments against singular gangs in the coming weeks and months? Is that what you were meaning with that quote?
Yeah, and if you're already aware, we dropped an indictment not that long ago against YFN. It is certainly a tool that I believe in, which is using RICO. I believe the reason that I believe in it as a tool is it allows juries and the communities to see the complete picture of a crime so they can truly be educated and have facts to weigh when they're making decisions. And so if you're asking, should you expect to see other RICO indictments against other street gang organizations? Absolutely.
Two questions specific to YSL. The 20-some people arrested here or named. How big is this gang? Is that a good portion of the gang you're operating in Atlanta? And how long were you investigating them?
If you look at the indictment, the crimes that are alleged within it go all the way back from 2012 to 2022. I wouldn't say that it contains every act of crime that YSL committed. It is a significant gang that operates here in Atlanta, Georgia.
I just want you to hear, like, she's making some pretty definitive statements. She said YSL committed these crimes. Now, again, I'm not arguing that they did or they didn't. I just thought that you were innocent until proven guilty. At the current moment, all you're doing is having an oppressor because you just arrested them. So there's not even, they haven't even been charged properly yet. But she's saying some pretty bombastic things. I didn't realize just how definitive and direct and straightforward she was. Like, wow. Okay, let's go.
And not every member became a defendant within this indictment, but certainly a significant amount did, and certainly some of the leadership, which is what's most important. We're not going to just target the children that are running out at the direction of leaders and not target leaders.
Adam,
Go ahead, Michael.
Sure. How much did social media, music play a role?
Oh, this is good.
Social media is a wonderful tool for prosecutors in every indictment we bring nowadays.
And let's talk about, obviously, YSL. They're the territories that Cleveland Avenue, no secret. We've seen a ton of violence, innocent bystanders get hit. So you guys believe that by getting them off the streets, that people in that neighborhood who are living in fear can actually have some peace now?
I believe that people in that neighborhood and at every corner of Fulton County deserve to be safe, even if it is financially lower, socially, economically. You know, I don't think that part of the community should be left behind. Me and the mayor and the police chief have talked about the fact that Cleveland in our community is referred to as Bleveland, that it is somewhere where just violence occurs, where they're marking up territory, it's blood territory. It's horrible. And you're absolutely right. That community deserves to be safe. And we are hoping that this helps to keep them safe.
Let's talk about safety. We know these gang members are going to be housed or brought in at the same time. How are you and Sheriff Labat working to keep them away from each other in the jail, especially with YS and Lucci being targeted as that came out recently?
Well, I won't step outside of my lane. I am the district attorney of Fulton County. I am not the sheriff. I have great confidence in the sheriff. He knew that this was coming as a law enforcement partner, and I believe that he is well prepared, but you'd have to speak to him to make sure that everyone within his facility is safe.
This indictment names a few, it's not just social media posts, but songs that have been released by Young Thug and others, where it shows people's lyrics, evidence supporting the legal conspiracy. And I'd like you to speak to the First Amendment issues that obviously raises.
This issue's been ruled on by the courts. I knew that question was coming. I believe in the First Amendment. It's one of our most precious rights. However, the First Amendment does not protect people from prosecutors using it as evidence if it is such. In this case, we put it as overt and predicate acts within the RICO count because we believe that's exactly what it is.
Let's allow Sheriff Labat.
Okay, so that's where she's making her case for using rap lyrics. I'm still very conflicted about that one. So I don't have a dog in the race, but I'm still conflicted about rap lyrics being used as evidence in crimes. Like I can just see it going so far. And so now, yeah, I have a problem with that one. I just don't know. I don't think I like that one.
I have one more from Ms. Willis. What's the last time you prosecuted a RICO case? Was that a PS case?
This office? No, since I've been here as the district attorney, I think we've indicted probably 4 or 5 RICOs at this point. So it's a tool I use.
Well, she proud of that Rico thing.
First of all, good afternoon. I believe both.
Okay, that was the
Madam
end
DA
of Fani's
and Chief
segment.
Bryant are
That was the end of Fani's segment. So I'm gonna go ahead and but yeah, man, like for her to get in her feels, or rather the DA's office to get in their feels because Brian Steele says his client is innocent, or Brian Steele says they want Judge Glanville recused or something of that nature. But she is speaking definitively. This is the day after they arrested Young Thug. So nothing had been charged. There's none of the shenanigans that we know of the YSL case had happened as of yet. So this is all fresh, all new. I mean, fingerprints were still probably being taken. And she is saying some stuff like, look, these cats, we're going to throw them under the jail. They're going to get the maximum sentence. Somebody going to get life. I mean, she's being very, very demonstrative. And remember, the jury still hasn't been seated. Nobody has been given instructions. So I could have been a juror. Probably not, because I live in Cobb County. But you got my point. There are people who have probably heard this. And they're thinking, wow, this is a gang. And they are definitely guilty because they heard this woman say that they're guilty. That's crazy. And then for her to have the audacity to be like, well, Brian Steele can't say anything. You have to be quiet. Doug Weinstein, you can't say anything. You got to be quiet. But she said this type of stuff is amazing to me. It is amazing. So